Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Thomas Jefferson said, "If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done." Benjamin Franklin said, "Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning." Basically, get off your duff, get to working, you've got dreams, you've got goals, you've got to do what it takes to get them. Like, subscribe, comment, show what your opinion is. Let me know if you like what you've seen. And I thank you for your support. While what I am about to talk about mainly focuses on what the Democrats are doing now with their lawfare against Republicans, specifically Trump, but there are others that they're using the legal system to fight their battles. It can be used against Democrats by Republicans. That is why I am going to say that this needs to be heard by everybody, because this is where the hatred is leading. That's what I don't like, is the hatred that is ruling this country right now. I don't like hatred. Hatred annoys the living daylights out of me. Now, for those of you that think that my videos are too long, let's shorten it for you really quickly. It'll be a couple of seconds. Legality is bad when used against Americans. Now, you can go now. Those of you that are actually wanting to hear a legality that people aren't talking about but is very real, especially in this environment of lawfare, as it's being called, stick around. Now, I'm going to show you some clips now of Democrats and their views on Republicans.
Tonight, President Biden in Arizona at the construction of the McCain Library, honoring his friend and Vietnam War hero, the late Republican Senator John McCain. Biden also taking the opportunity to describe what he considers the biggest threat to American democracy, MAGA Republicans.
This MAGA threat is a threat to the brick and mortar of our democratic institutions. But it's also
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm in Philadelphia at the Democratic National Convention. I want to get a sense from Democrats how important acceptance and tolerance of other people's views are. The value of tolerance and acceptance of other people, how important a value is that to you?
Number one, plus.
Tolerance an important value?
Yeah, absolutely. Tolerance, inclusiveness, they're really high. I mean, I don't know how to put words to it.
That's how important it is.
Yes.
I think it's probably the number one issue in the country today.
Tolerance and acceptance is so unbelievably important because we all have something to offer.
Respect, we all need it.
I am for love and helping our neighbors.
I believe we're all part of the whole, we're all part of the universe.
Oh, well, we love everybody.
About loving your neighbor and loving everybody, and then I think about my Nazi neighbors.
Are those Republicans assholes?
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of assholes, excuse my French. But I'm not a judgmental person. I don't judge.
I have been anti-Republican my entire life.
They're misogynistic, racist, homophobic.
You can keep putting words in my mouth, but yeah, all the above.
Is that true?
Yeah, all the above.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, but you are. It's okay.
Okay.
They are my words.
I don't really want to be inflammatory. They're deviant,
Racist,
So dumb.
sexist,
evil, it's sick.
fascist.
I mean, disgusting.
Absolutely.
Racism and hatred.
They don't care about human people. They don't care about human rights. They only care about greed and money and power.
Let's do a love hug. Come on. Bring it in. Love hug. Mwah.
You have to start calling calling his supporters racist as well.
They're the PLO to Hamas. They're a dime store front for a terrorist movement.
The Republican Party is basically a domestic terrorist cell at this point.
They're starting to look like the jihadists.
Not a political party. They're a white nationalist movement. They're a fascist threat to our nation. That's not hyperbolic. That's academic.
Party of dupes, party of knuckleheads, party of weirdos, party of freaks.
It has become an authoritarian embracing cult.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
You could put half of Trump's supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
This is Fred Korematsu. He was born in Oakland, California in 1919. Third of 4 sons to Japanese immigrants. They ran a flower nursery business in Oakland, California. U.S. entered World War II, and Korematsu tried to enlist in both the National Guard and the Coast Guard. He was turned down because, well, he was Japanese. He became a welder and got fired eventually because he was Japanese. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor and what is Executive Order 9066, U.S. military removed 120,000 people of Japanese descent. Most of these folks were American citizens, ladies and gentlemen. They were born here, they were raised here. There were 3 categories. You had the Japanese immigrants, the first generation. These folks weren't allowed to be citizens by law. There was a law that said that these folks could be here. They could create lives for themselves, which included creating businesses, but they were not allowed to be citizens. But their children were allowed to be citizens. And you had 2 categories of those. You had the kind that stayed here, got educated here. These were hardworking individuals, just like their parents. The other category were Japanese that their families were so traditional that they still sent them to Japan to learn in the Japanese schools. Well, Korematsu went to school here. This is a bipartisan issue. This isn't no. Republicans and Democrats both fought to put the Japanese that were on the West Coast in camps. It was bad. Korematsu didn't want to go. He chose to defy the order, and he kept working because he was an American citizen. Now, he did try to change his appearance a little bit with plastic surgery and claimed to be of Spanish and Hawaiian descent, but he was arrested in San Leandro, California, taken to a San Francisco County jail, and he started the court procedures. These court procedures became what was known as Korematsu versus the United States. This is the legal ramifications of what we're going to talk about next. But let's show you, I'm going to show you a cartoon that was put out. I'm just going to show you a clip of a cartoon that was put out in the 40s. It was put out in 1943 of how Americans saw Japanese.
And I, Yamamoto, will dictate peace terms in the White House. General Hama demonstrates coolness and calmness of a Japanese officer during air raid.
let's go into a little history here. The Japanese Americans, the second generation, were trying to join the U.S. military. As a matter of fact, even after they were interned in these military-ran camps, they did create a military unit that ended up fighting in Europe. Japanese Americans had created jobs that were taken from them. These businesses were taken from them. Their land was taken from them. And quite a few of them were forcibly sent back to Japan after the war. But these are folks that, while some of them didn't have a love for America, they weren't openly hostile to the nation. Unlike, say, the German-American Bund, which marched for the Nazi Party in Times Square. That's right. They held a rally for the German-American Bund in New York City and in other places. They marched holding the swastika up before the war. Now, the Italian Americans, their most prominent group, the Mafia, sadly, were completely against the fascist government of Mussolini, because Mussolini went after the Mafia in Italy. But the German-American Bund were, while some of them went to jail, for the most part, these folks were allowed to redeem themselves, unlike the Japanese. It took years for the Japanese to recover from what the internments did to them. And Korematsu versus United States, in an opinion written by Justice Black, they ruled that the evacuation order was valid. The majority found that the executive order did not show racial prejudice. It did, but that's what they claimed, but rather responded to the strategic imperative of keeping the U.S. and particularly the West Coast, the region nearest Japan, secure from invasion. Now, let me give you a little history on that. The Japanese were not interned in Hawaii. No, they were allowed to go about their business in Hawaii. It was considered that it would destroy the economy of Hawaii if the Japanese were interned there. Ooh, but it was okay on the West Coast. Court relied heavily on 1943 decision Hirabashi versus U.S., which addressed similar issues. Black argued that the validation of the military's decision by Congress merited even more deference. Justice Frankfurter concurred, writing that the martial necessity arising from the danger of espionage and sabotage warranted the military's evacuation order. Justice Jackson dissented, though, arguing that the exclusion order legitimized racism that violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Even today, now, I'm going to read you something. This is a paragraph from the Stanford Law blog. Judicial overruling is not the only way that a decision can lose its status as law. Korematsu has been, in the words of Justice Stephen Breyer, thoroughly discredited by Congress, by the executive branch, and by federal judiciary. Scholars and judges have long treated the decision as part of an anti-canon decision so thoroughly and unanimously repudiated that they exemplify what our law is not. No court treats Korematsu as a precedent worthy of being followed. Quite the contrary, it is routine for judicial nominees to expressly disavow the decision, which is good. Don't get me wrong, I am 100% for that. Chief Justice Roberts did that in his confirmation hearings in 2005, so did Justice Alito in 2006, Justice Sotomayor in 2009. Justice Scalia ranked Korematsu with Dred Scott as a paragon of injustice. It's fair to say, Professor Jamal Green wrote 5 years ago in the Harvard Law Review, that Korematsu is almost uniformly recognized by serious lawyers and judges to be bad precedent. Indeed, so bad that its use by one's opponents is likely to prompt a vociferous and public denial. But saying all of that, let's get a little bit into the weeds here. Everyone considers it bad law. But think about this for a second. We have a situation in this country that people are hating each other over politics left and right. We have two political parties that are trying to gain power over each other, with one having far more power than the other. And the GOP is that big tent party. So there are quite a few of the members of the GOP that are continuously siding with the Democrats. So they're continuously attacking conservatives. They're continuously calling people that are conservative white supremacist. They're continuously calling them misogynist, all these names. You've heard it in the videos that I showed you. So it makes you want to wonder what they're talking about and what links that they are willing to go to.
At what point did you and President Trump actually have a discussion on this request from Mayor Bowser?
I had a meeting with President Trump on the 3rd of January concerning some international threats. And at the very end, he asked if there were any requests for National Guard support, and I informed him of Mayor Bowser's request.
Mr. Miller, to clarify that point, did you tell the president about the mayor's request, or did President Trump ask if there were requests?
He asked if there were requests.
What was the president's response to you with regard to the request made by Mayor Bowser?
Fill it and do whatever was necessary to protect the demonstrators and that were executing their constitutionally protected rights.
Okay.
We have a nation that is going through a transformative time right now. We don't need it to be more violent. Unfortunately, there are many people that are calling for more violence. And we don't need to use the judicial system in a way that is going against people that disagree with you. Now you're going, oh, this is just some nuance. Take a look at what they're doing against Trump right now. I care less whether you like him or not. I want you to take the name Trump out of the picture. Take him out of the picture. Let's just listen to these cases. One of the cases is in New York State, and it's a case about how he valued a property in the state of Florida. Why is New York interested in the value of a piece of property in Florida? Then you've got a case that was held against him that is about him giving hush money to somebody who it would be more whether she actually did something, they did something or not, it still was causing a bunch of problems, and so he chose to pay her off. How many people have done that? And so that's being considered a criminal act? Those are just two of the cases. You take a look at what was done by Trump wanting, for years we were lied to, and it was said that Trump didn't want to call out the National Guard. There's proof. I just showed you proof that he had been willing to have the National Guard there. Now, while it would have been to protect the protesters, if things had gotten out the way that they had gone, the protesters would have become the folks that would have been guarded against if they were actually doing the things that they were claimed. But when you see the videos, Benny Johnson has the videos that were hidden from us until Republicans took over the House, of these protesters quietly walking through the Capitol. While I don't agree with them entering the offices, I don't agree with them damaging property, I don't agree with them stealing property, I don't agree with several of the things that were done, when they first entered the building, completely at will of the police opened up the gates to let them in. The police were standing against the wall and talking with these protesters in a peaceful manner. The protesters were in a line walking through the Capitol building. They weren't committing a crime because the cops were standing there talking with them, laughing with them. So until they started doing the stupid stuff that they had done, they weren't committing a crime. So the terrorism kicker is another form of lawfare. Now, do I believe that there were some stupid people among that crowd? Yes. I will perfectly well admit that there were stupid people in that crowd. Why you have to destroy anything, I don't get that. Why you had to steal stuff, I don't get that. But that's just it. The terrorism kicker is lawfare. Korematsu may be considered bad law, but as we continue to go down a path in which one party is seen as all the things that the Democrats see the GOP as, and don't get me wrong, the GOP sees the Democrats as so many different things. While we have that, Korematsu versus United States is still, while not considered canon right now, can still be used. There are still ways that people will see this as a viable option. No, FEMA will not be guarding the camps. Quit calling them FEMA camps. It will be the military and law enforcement that are guarding the camps. Intern camps, re-education camps. Let's go there. Re-education camps are quite possible. Look what they ordered Dr. Jordan Peterson to do in Canada. He needed to go through a re-education course. Don't believe that the liberals won't use re-education. They do it in China. They did it in the Soviet Union. Everywhere that the liberals have taken command, they've had re-education camps. Re-education camps are a tool of tyranny. We need to get this off the books. We need to make sure that this will never be allowed to happen again or ever. You may think that this is some kind of little nuance. It isn't. It is understanding the history of people getting stupid over things. That is what world history is. You have moments, long moments, years of human stupidity leading to all kinds of evils being committed. And that is what I am standing up against. And I think that you need to think about that. I honestly do. I think you need to know that this is, while might be considered a nuclear option, This is very real, and this can happen again in this country. I don't want it to, but the sad part is it can happen. This is just something for you to think about. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now.